Most people dream about success. If you've come from nothing with no contacts to help you up the ladder, you might fantasize about what it would feel like to overcome the odds, to conquer your competitors, and make it to the promised land of financial security, where you're no longer taking orders but giving them, and attracting romantic partners that were previously out of reach. This dream can feel overwhelming at times, even mentally isolating, but if you just stick to your guns, maintain a growth mindset, and recite the right self-help mantras, you can achieve your goals and make the world a better place. Assuming you're not a sociopath whose dream will inevitably make the world a worse place, like Lou Bloom. Dan Gilroy's Nightcrawler is a twisted masterpiece for turning the ethos of the American dream on its head. The inspiring idea that any free individual will find success with the right attitude and work ethic doesn't consider how a corrosive incentive structure combined with dogged self-interest could contribute to a toxic culture where bad actors are rewarded for playing the game. Lou Bloom is hungry for success. Having come from nothing with no apparent social skills, he's obsessively researched self-help books to help him achieve his goals. He doesn't necessarily know what industry he wants to be in, he just wants to be successful, and knows he's willing to go further than any of his competition to win. Lou consistently describes himself as a fast learner.
I'm a very, very quick learner. I'm a very fast learner.
So let's examine what lessons Lou Bloom learns from our society, and how his twisted psyche leads him down a dark path to success, by lying, manipulating, harming others, and exploiting society's perverse incentive structure. When we first meet Lou, he's stealing chain-linked fence from an industrial complex. When he's confronted by security, he lies, pretending to be lost, but once he catches a glimpse of what appears to be an expensive watch on the wrist of the security guard, he attacks him and steals the watch. So right up front, it seems that Lou is not a typical protagonist. He displays a profound lack of empathy, and there's no low he will not stoop to in order to survive. He then tries to sell his stolen fencing at a scrapyard and finds himself in a tough negotiation with the owner. He's done his research on the market value of his items, but has no leverage as the buyer knows they're stolen.
I'm willing to take less to establish a business relationship. If that's your last best offer, then I guess I accept.
He gets lowballed and concedes, but his learned can-do attitude causes him to reframe his loss as a win by stating that this deal will establish a business relationship. All of these tactics are clearly researched persuasion tools that Lou is applying to make a sale, not realizing that they're off-putting and slimy. He then changes tack and innocently asks for a job, pitching himself as a persistent hard worker while holding an uncomfortable level of eye contact. Despite his eyes being wide open, he can't read the room at all and starts pushing too hard again. Once he's rejected, he offers to work for free as an intern. Lou fails to see that he's untrustworthy because he's acting like an experienced businessman while selling stolen goods. This is a giant red flag as it shows he doesn't even register the difference between right and wrong. Then by offering to work for free to get his foot in the door, he shows his hand that he's broke and lowers his value. He's obviously following a book's advice, believing that his enthusiasm to prove himself will help him to climb the ladder, but it isn't working, as what he describes as persistence comes across as transparent desperation. Then when Lou sees a cameraman capturing a car accident on the freeway, he pulls over and watches him work. He again starts trying to show his enthusiasm and directly asks for a job, but he's rejected offhand. So with two rejections back to back, Lou sees the modern world as cruel, uninviting, and ruthless. You can't just walk up to an employer and pitch yourself anymore. You can't be seen to really need a job in order to get one. Lou steals a bike and now finds himself in yet another negotiation where he's pitching the value of the bike with a false smile, using every sleazy sales tactic in the book. Even attempts a power play by asking to talk to the manager, but then discovers he's talking to the owner, crushing his leverage. He trades the bike for a camcorder and begins night crawling, chasing down accidents to exploit victims to sell to local news stations. It may not sound like an honourable job, but Lou doesn't care about what he does. He cares that he's successful in what he's doing. When Lou arrives at his first shooting, he's not the first on the scene, but decides to push the boundaries by going right up to the victim and filming them uncomfortably close. So close that the police then force both him and the other cameraman who was first on the scene so far back that they have to stop filming. This showcases Lou's dogged self-interest, that as long as he wins by getting the best shot, nothing and no one else matters. He then eavesdrops on the conversation between the cameraman Ace and a local news station, hearing him negotiate down to sell his clip for $300. In order to beat his competition, Lou goes to the station in person and hypes up his clip as much better than Ace's, negotiates down from $1,000 and sells it for $250. Whereas competition can create genuine innovation, it can also become a race to the bottom, where whoever stoops lower and undercuts everyone else wins. It only takes a few bad apples to oversaturate the market and create unlivable working conditions, so now only the most cutthroat will survive. Lou maintains his creepy eye contact with Nina, as if he's read somewhere that it's good for establishing a personal relationship. For the first time, Lou has found a business that genuinely mirrors his own shady moral compass. As long as he does the dirty work, they're willing to reward him for it. Even though Lou is new to the business, he instantly starts to expand by hiring Rick. Well, hiring him as just an intern to exploit. In Lou's mind, this is very fair, as he offered to be an intern in the scrapyard, so everyone should be willing to stoop as low as him to get their foot in the door. Clearly quoting from a persuasion book he's memorized, Lou lies and manipulates in order to raise his value and negotiate.
It's not at all unusual for me to make full-time job offers to my interns.
He deceptively uses language like he's been running a well-established business for years, and pretends there's a set path to success for Rick to follow. So now instead of desperately chasing a path of success to no avail, Lou is casting himself as an expert to persuade others to chase him. This is a classic example of the fake it till you make it mentality. With Lou now acting as an authority figure, he recites what he learned from his self-help books to discipline his subordinate, stating, "Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions," and citing studies that determine that communication is the #1 key to success. As if these optimistic, constructive catchphrases can paint over his clearly exploitative behavior. Despite working in a seedy industry that revolves around preying on the vulnerable, Lou still views himself as a hero on his journey towards the American dream. And it seems that the worse he behaves, the more he's rewarded. He sneaks into a shooting victim's doorway without their permission to get the perfect shot of the bullet holes in the window. And when he arrives early to a crime scene before the police get there, he physically moves a victim's body in order to frame the scene better. Because Lou possesses zero empathy for human beings, he views his job as if he's just a cameraman on a film set moving props rather than human beings. He displays a persistent growth mindset by researching how to improve his cinematography and framing to sell his clips for a higher value.
A proper frame not only draws the eye into a picture, but keeps it there longer, dissolving the barrier between the subject and the outside of the frame.
But improving his product's quality always involves harming others. This shows that the incentive structure enables his worst impulses. In order to compete and win, he has to take bigger and bigger risks, with fewer and fewer boundaries. When he's offered a job from his competition who initially rejected him, Lou now gets to be the one to say no. The tables turn, and now he seems to realize how desperate it is when someone won't take no for an answer, just like he wouldn't in the scrapyard. But now that he's running a pretty successful business, Lou expects a romantic reward for his actions and asks Nina out on a date. When she tries to politely decline, he politely threatens to stop selling to her. She agrees to go to dinner as a professional courtesy, which Lou takes as a compliment because he's about to manipulate her. He actually wants Nina to focus more on their professional relationship and how important it is. As it turns out, Lou is a fast learner, as he's researched everything about Nina and her career. He's deduced that her contract is coming up to renewal time, and she needs his footage to keep bringing in viewers, or she'll be fired. For the first time in any of his negotiations, Lou has real leverage. He knows it, and is willing to show it.
There's nothing more to say.
You can leave.
He uses his power to take what he wants. She needs him financially, and he wants her romantically. So if she doesn't sleep with him, he'll end their professional relationship, and she'll lose her job. Lou views the world as purely transactional. People use him, he uses people, and everyone leverages their power once they have it, and then act offended as if they would never do this once they're on the other side. This ruthless self-interest continues when Rick tries to ask Lou for a raise, and he shuts it down, visibly taking joy in how little leverage Rick has. But no industry can be conquered without being challenged by steep competition. And it turns out the job offer Lou turned down was a real opportunity, as now his competition has a whole team working together. They arrive to the crime scenes first and streamline the sales process over the internet. He can't keep up. But as Balzac stated, behind every great fortune, there is a crime. Rather than competing fairly, Lou eliminates his competition by tampering with his van so he crashes later that night. And Lou gets to be the one to voyeuristically film him as they take him away in a stretcher, as now he's become just another sale. This is of course disgusting behaviour, but we have all heard the phrase, "it's not personal, it's just business," many times, normalising the idea that there's an accepted domain in our lives that gives us permission to destroy someone else. From here, Lou aims higher, pushing himself further, arriving on an active crime scene and running inside to film the victims of a shooting up close before the police show up. This propels his career forward, his company now receiving credit for the footage on air. All his hard work is paying off, and his dreams are becoming a reality. Lou then prioritizes his own self-interest above society's safety by not giving the police the footage of the perpetrators or the registration plate. Instead, he uses that information to follow them and only calls it in when he has the perfect shot, so he can film the oncoming massacre and sell it. Notice how, in Lou's mind, he's promoting himself every step of the way. He started off chasing crimes like a desperate cameraman, but notice how he's promoted himself to directing the crimes, setting it all up like a sick puppet master so he can be first on the scene. But for the first time since his newfound success, Lou finds himself being leveraged by Rick, who wants half the earnings for the night for putting himself in harm's way.
Cops would be majorly interested in that, no doubt. Okay, so I want more money.
Even though it's a perfectly fair request, Lou can't stand being leveraged. He's crawled his way to the top so ruthlessly that he refuses to let go of a single inch of his own success. So when they chase down the criminal's crashed car, he lies to Rick that he's dead, so he'll go right up to the car door and get shot. Lou is perfectly happy to exploit someone else to grow his business, but the moment they want their own taste of success for their hard work and dedication, rather than giving them a hand up, he shuts the door behind him, and Rick's last living moments are spent listening to Lou recite his adopted business philosophy.
I can't jeopardize my company's success.
As grotesque as Lou Bloom's behaviour is throughout the story, he's incentivized and rewarded every step of the way. He chased his American dream, and it all came true. He's known and praised around the office, he has a love interest that he met through his work, and now he's the boss of his own business with multiple employees that look up to him and will do whatever he says. With that stolen watch still on his wrist to remind him how far he's climbed up the ladder. Dan Gilroy's Nightcrawler shows us the pitfalls in our current system and philosophies, that fetishizing the idea of winning at all costs can incentivize the worst actors to rise the ranks.
What if my problem wasn't that I don't understand people, but that I don't like them?
As long as he creates something of monetary value, how he got any of it doesn't seem to matter. And all of those who had to be crushed along the way in order for Lou's dream to come true were just sacrificial lambs offered up at the altar of success. Because in a dog-eat-dog world, the veneer of a successful individual who has money, power, and leverage is all that matters, as that's what will inspire the next generation to battle it out and repeat the cycle. If you enjoy content like this and want to see more of it, please do consider supporting me on Patreon, as it really does make a difference to how much content I can pump out. Or if you can't afford that, then simply like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment down below to help the algorithm do its thing.